Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 128, Cultural Manifesto, recorded on Friday, January 8th, 2020 from Zenata Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
As always, we will start with our announcements. We have our upcoming webinar. This one is going to be on Zoho 1 2021. We did this last year. And somehow, Tyler, I think we talked about this. We managed to fit it into an hour. I don't know if we'll do that this year or not. I think it's going to go longer. We seem to have gotten more long-winded over time. So we'll see how this goes. But you can go to CRM Zen and go to events, and you can register for it there. And coming up this week as well, on Tuesday the 12th, Wednesday the 13th, and Thursday the 14th, you've got some Zoho user virtual meetups, and this is going to be covering CRM basics. I also noticed I was over in Connect this morning, seeing if there was any new news or anything like that, and they posted just a whole slew of these. I mean, really running out for the rest of the month, covering the entire world. So they've got all of Europe and all of the US, not just these just seem to be for the local area here, Southern California area, I should say. But there's a whole bunch of these. So if you head over there, there's too many, I think, for us to put into our events calendar. But I think there was like 50 or 60 or 70 of them. But they're all the same. It's all CRM basics. I think it's an interesting concept that they're still doing the user groups locally, even though they're virtually, right? This could be the chance for just the one big, massive user group meetup, I think.
The one to rule them all.
Yeah. All right, so with that, let's get right on into the news. So we're going to start off with Bigin for Android. They've now put in some pipeline views. So this was, I didn't know this was missing, but it is kind of nice. So you basically can kind of just view your pipes as you would, kind of a quasi Kanban, I guess. You're kind of swapping and sliding. I'm not sure you can take them from one side to another, but it is a nice new feature, and they kind of continue to, it was funny. I was reading another article on Bigin. They had over 10 major updates to it last year. It seemed like there was a lot more than that, didn't it?
Yeah, it's I think they're seeing it maybe as one of their new gateway drugs, right, into Zoho. Super clean, super simple little CRM that you can integrate into the rest of their products. This is a nice one to have on Android. I mean, the pipeline view is the primary way I think a lot of people are going to use Bigin is for that Kanban, dragging left to right. So definitely a nice one to have if you're using it on Android.
Yeah, I think so. And then we were talking about this a little bit on the pre-show, but Motivator for Zoho CRM has been released, and we've played around with this for a little bit on the site. I don't think we were able to talk about it, but if you don't know, Motivator has end of life. I think it's completely done now. Maybe it's still out there. And what they've done is they've kind of replaced it with a similar type of product inside of the CRM. You played around with this a little bit. I know we were trying to get live refreshes and things like that, but it looks like it's getting there with TV channels and everything else, right?
Yeah. So the big use case for Motivator was always that it was, a relatively instant sync from the CRM, and you're able to create and display, simple KPIs. You can create them into different games, so who's going to make the most phone calls today, who's going to close the most deals this week, and then display those in, TV friendly dashboards that cycle through, and they show all the different games that are running right now and who's in first, second, and third. And though the look and feel of Motivator here in the CRM is a little bit different, they've definitely replaced all of that core functionality. The UI for setting a lot of this up is much cleaner. I mean, Motivator it was almost in the bucket with something like the old mail admin, where it was just the UI had not been updated in a long, long time. So definitely looks better here. I will say the TV dashboards aren't quite as fancy looking as they were in Motivator, where it would pull in, kind of animate things a little bit more and fade in and fade out. But, they've definitely stood up all the core functionality that you need to replace the original Motivator tool.
Yeah, and I think, but we still have GameScope, right? So if you just want to do these quick little one-offs, GameScope still exists in the CRM. I'm not sure the reason for replacing it. I'm sure there had to be a good one, and I have a feeling they'll continue to work on it, and this will get up there. The one thing we noticed is that it says here the TV channels are updated in real time. In Motivator, they truly were real time. As it went from one screen to another screen to another screen, you were seeing that. And like you said, it's a big kind of a thing for bullpens. It would sit up on the big screen TV. They could see how many calls they made, how many sales they made, how many new leads, all of those, and there was a horse race. People would move up and down, up and down. In this case, it seemed to be, I don't know, what would you say, every 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Yeah, it wasn't quite instant. We'd kind of fiddle around with it in between loads, and then we'd see, oh, cool, fresh data came through. So it's pretty quick. I think that's all right. If it's a couple minutes at first, I don't think people are going to be working, they're not staring right at it all the time. So if the cost for, putting it into a better UI and housing it in the CRM is that it might be a little slower, I think it's a okay trade-off.
Anyway, I'm glad to see that that actually happened, because there was so much wailing and gnashing of teeth going on the boards for the hardcore Motivator users. This at least is going to give them something good. Hey, and Zoho Payroll is now available in Washington State. So I think this brings us to Texas, California, and Washington.
Yep, 3 out of 50.
47 to go. I have yet to, we've played around with Zoho Payroll a little bit, not really, unfortunately, usable for us because we've got employees, scattered all over the country. And so you can't really have that as a central thing. So I look forward to the day when this is rolled out across the US. I think it's going to be a good thing, but they're continuing to do this. And, in Zoho's own way, rather than just go buy a payroll company that was, already in all 50 states and done. Now they're just doing it themselves bit by bit.
Yeah, and I think this will be a nice one when it comes out. It's really the one missing piece for running all of your HR in Zoho. I mean, you can run all of your hiring through Recruit, convert people from Recruit into Zoho People, do their onboarding, all their performance management there, can track time inside of Zoho People. It's just that one last step that's missing is actually running your payroll. So it's going to be a huge value add once it's in all 50, and accessible for everyone.
Yeah, that'll be good. And we'll get off. Right now it's kind of most people are using a third party, whether it's Paychex or ADP or any of them that are out there, and you've got to download the GL and then upload it into your booking system. So this it'll be nice, and it'll also start to get them more and more on parity with QuickBooks, which is one of their goals. I mean, oftentimes we're talking to people and they're using QuickBooks and they said, I'd love to use Zoho Books, but they're doing their payroll out of there, right? And so, if they come up with something like T-Sheets as well, I think, then that's going to definitely drop a lot of barriers to moving on over. And then kind of a small one here, but Zoho Sheets has added spell check, and they just took it directly from Writer. So it's the same engine that's in Zoho Writer. It's a good spell check. It's also got the full grammar and everything else in there. When that first came out, I was really not happy because I'm a Grammarly user and Grammarly does it all. But man, over time here, I mean, Zoho's it's gotten to be exceptionally good. And they've also rolled this out in the Spanish language now as well. So it spell check in spreadsheets, Tyler.
Always nice to have. I mean, I'm horrible. We get so reliant on these little tools to tell us when we've made a typo or, have phrased something incorrectly. Right. So it's good. I want them everywhere. I want them in every single place that I'm typing because I've learned not to trust myself.
And moving on here, Zoho BackStage now supports an offline payment mode. This is kind of interesting. People now can basically go buy a ticket, not pay for the ticket, have the ticket delivered to them. I would imagine it could be like a will call thing, show up at the event and then pay for it at the event. Pay cash. There's you use some other third-party tool to do it, but you now have on your portal you can put an offline payment mode.
That's nice. You're able to even take payment at the venue and then just reconcile it against the ticket that it was paid for.
Yeah. So just a nice little enhancement to basically BackStage as it continues to go up against Eventbrite over and over again. And that's one of those apps that we talked about. I mean, all last year, it seems like every update they did was just nice. you know, whether it was the badge printer, just the fact that they totally moved into virtual events on there as well, and the ability to host those. I mean, that team's been doing some great work over the last.
And I think if you're running events too, especially if you're charging for them, they're not taking a commission on the ticket sales, which is pretty huge. I mean, Eventbrite's taking a percentage of all of your tickets. Right. BackStage is not doing that. So you can sell tickets through there and you're just paying the credit card processing fees. So it's a pretty big advantage if you're already on Zoho, right? And you're going to run an event. It'll save you some money if you're going to be selling those tickets.
Yeah, I'm going to spin it up and start charging my kids to show up at the dinner table. They're going to have to buy tickets in advance. I'm not sure.
Badges.
I'm not going to take no offline payment mode for them though, man. They need to pay in advance before they show up. That's right. I feel like they're taking advantage of me, Tyler. I don't know. All right, moving on. CRM list view roundup. Man, oh man, thank goodness that this came out. So this was actually released just right after our last show, but we have talked about this kind of in the things you noticed. But Zoho really did just a whole bunch of really nice refinements, I want to say, kind of UI refinements to the overall list view inside of the CRM. And I know you like a lot of these, and we were kind of playing around with them, trying to find where the buttons were when they dropped. You know, things were kind of moved around, but nothing but good stuff here.
Yes. I mean, across the board, you know, showing and hiding filters, they're making that button more clear, right? You're locking your leftmost column. So if you have like a deal name and you want to scroll right and see a variety of info, you've got that there. The sorting is much easier. Whatever that first field is, you can just quickly sort on it with a little drop down. I mean, just a ton of updates here throughout the entire list view.
Yeah. And they're starting the standardization of things like the pancake and overall buttons, you know, everything, no more 3 dots and click and get this, you know, everything's now turning into buttons with drop down arrows. I mean, these are minor things, but it's a nice cleanup. It does. I tell you what, having used this product for so darn long, it was quite the takes getting used to. I think some of these moving things around, especially if you're watching on the video right now, you know, the ability to quickly add a column. I think it took me back, you know, a couple minutes to find out where they'd move that to. But and now instead of it being 1 click away, it's a couple clicks away. But it's nice because you can reset your columns, you can resize them. There's some nice. The resizing the columns is huge too. Super nice.
Yeah, anyway, just a variety of things. Definitely one, if you get in the newsletter, just pull that up. There's even more that we haven't touched on here. We're slow scrolling if you're watching the video, but there's just a ton of little updates across that entire list view. They're also, if you show up at the top here, this isn't released yet, but they're doing a new view for tags, where it looks like you're going to be like color coding your tags and pulling those in based on a color code, which will be super nice. Not currently out, but if you are seeing it on video, you can see a little preview on the page.
Yeah, some of this will be rolled by the end of this month, they promise. So we'll see what that does. And then a quick little CRM Zen public service announcement here. If you use Zoho Vault, they pushed out a new extension, and it broke the ability for it to autofill in your passwords. And so I've been kind of following this on a daily basis. The recommendation is you need to completely uninstall and then go ahead and reinstall, because what they did is they pushed back they rolled back to the old version. Let's see if it's been fixed yet. Nope, hasn't been fixed. So, you know, there's one comment here, and we've been very positive on the show today, but this does happen frequently, Zoho, and you got to get your testing protocols a little better. I mean, to push out a Chrome extension that literally does not work, that breaks the general thing of the product. Somebody, it seems, somewhere should have tested that, right?
You would hope.
You would hope. But anyway, so if you have that problem, just uninstall and reinstall, and you should be good to go. And then kind of rounding up a little bit of the news here, the Zoho put out a blog post on the 10 most popular CRM integrations for 2020. You know, they have a subsequent article around this. A lot of these were written by Zoho just in request for people said, I need these extensions. kind of run through them. Number one, WhatsApp. I mean, this is just big worldwide, right? I mean, WhatsApp's even getting bigger and bigger here in the US.
Mm-hmm.
It's so SMS Magic. We talk about that a lot. MailChimp. If you're not using campaigns, the MailChimp integration is very good. LinkedIn Finder. I've not played with this one yet. That looks like it might be.
It looks like it might be just pinging off of LinkedIn, maybe returning some information.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Shopify, Google Drive, Facebook Adverts Manager, Click to Send SMS, Dropbox, and DocuSign. So interesting that almost all of these are for third-party apps that I think just a lot of people use, that over and over again. I mean, the Google Drive one, it's been around. I'd like to see some refinements on that, but most of these are pretty good. I'm curious about this LinkedIn Finder, though. We use a product called Link Match that basically will go ahead and go out and find the person, pull all that information into the CRM. We've talked about it over and over again, but it looks like this might do something similar. I'm curious if it can like fill in the screen and create the contact or not. Hard to say. From these screenshots, I can't tell. I'm gonna have to play with this one, Tyler.
Maybe it'll be our app of the week next week.
Yes, I brought back an oldie but goodie for today. We covered it on episode 2 of the show. Zoho news. Last rounding it up this morning, having my coffee, relaxing. Zoho dropped this little bit of news. So they now have facial recognition in Zoho People, which is basically now for check-in, check-out. They've got a couple ways of handling this. The first one is it looks at your picture and it actually matches it against your picture that you have inside Zoho People in your employee record, and it verifies that that's it. Or you can use it where you check in and it takes your picture, and when you check out, it takes your picture, and someone can manually check it if they want to do it that way. But it won't let you check in or check out unless the images match if you have the facial recognition version of it on. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it prevents somebody from checking in for you, right?
Yeah, kind of an interesting one. I mean, hopefully the facial recognition is good, because it does sound like once you turn this on, this is the way, right? And this is how check-ins run. So got to have nice, clear pictures.
Yeah, and when I read this originally, I thought, okay, it was going to be for iOS, right? And that was going to be it. And basically they were just going to use, Apple's facial recognition, which is fantastic. Once you logged your face and it verified your face, you'd be good to go. But it looks like they're just going to do some photo analysis and verify you every single time. Zoho People getting better as we move into our Orwellian society. I love it. All right. And that then brings us to our implementation of the week. This was kind of a cool one.
Yes, this was running a little integration from Zoho CRM into TalentLMS, just via some Deluge functions. So basically the use case here was that, throughout the course of a deal, we might sell a handful of seats to different course plans in an LMS that, we have control over. And so what we did, basically put together a little subform in the deal where we could record all the different users that are going to be permissioned for access as contacts, right? So we can grab their email, their phone number, their name. And then we just define in that subform which plan, right? Which set of courses they're going to be permissioned for. And then we just coded a little custom button onto the page where once you press it, a little function runs that organizes that subform information into a list and just runs it through a little Zapier webhook that parses all the info into your users. So basically with a button press, you wait about 10 seconds and then all those people get their invites to join. And we just set like a default password and a default username, which they can update once they log in. So it's just basically a little end capper once that deal is sold and all the users are finalized. It's just a button press and it sends all this information out to the third-party system. Nice.
It seems like there's a lot of every time we do something like this, there'll be other things we can do with it, right?
Yeah, really. If you ever want to send a group of people somewhere else, right? You can log them like this and then just run a similar function.
Yeah. You had to use Zapier to get through though.
Zapier just had a pre-made connection to this LMS was the reason we used it. Normally we would run something like this through Flow, but in this case, it was just pre-built with
Ready to go.
TalentLMS, and there was already a Zapier account on file. So we just went ahead and ran it that way.
Nice. All right, let's go to our read of the week. So this one, we're going to Customer Think. Have not been there in a while, and I just liked this article a lot. It's Customer Experience at Netflix, 6 lessons we can all learn from. And it really goes through and it just talks about how Netflix is kind of king of the hill from a CX experience and how they take care of their customers and how they build that loyalty through the customer experience. And, their customer satisfaction is really off the charts. And so anyway, I just found this entire article to be well worth reading. The last part I'll talk about here, the Netflix Culture Manifesto. Why don't we have a culture manifesto, Tyler? Anyway, our core philosophy is people over process. More specifically, we have great people working together as a dream team. With this approach, we are more flexible, fun, stimulating, creative, collaborative, and successful as an organization. I guess that just does describe us here at Zenata. That's amazing. Except it didn't talk
paste.
Yeah, except where's the pretty part? We're pretty
True.
too. Well, that's right. Pretty. That's right. So it's our cultural manifesto. I don't know. Did you get a chance to read through this? I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those core things is that, oftentimes you're going to have a lot of different people competing for the same customers, right, with these services. And if you look at Netflix and streaming, especially nowadays, it's more competition than ever. And oftentimes, if you do have a similar product, that last thing that's going to tip someone to either, stay with you or go to a competitor is going to be that customer experience. So it's a worthwhile investment.
Yeah. So anyway, great article. A little shout out here to, let's see if I can't butcher this gentleman's name, Steve Van Belleghem. What do you think? Belleghem.
Probably.
Yeah, he appears to be a motivational speaker, by the way. I kind of checked out his website and he does speaking engagements. He's written a book called The Offer You Can't Refuse, and he wrote a good article for Customer Think. So shout out there, Steve. Nice article. I like it. It's a good take. It's an interesting take, something different. We just don't see that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that takes us to what's new on Zenata this week. We have a brand new blog, tips for successfully managing your email. I have to say, I am really liking what our writers are doing. It's getting better and better and better. And this is the kind of article that we actually would pull in as a read of the week, Tyler, in the past. So I promise everyone we're stepping up our game here in 2021 over at the Zenata blog. So pretty happy with that. If you want to get some tips on managing your email, and we're starting to roll out case studies. Want to give a shout out to one of our clients, Legion Capital. Did some really interesting stuff for them, and it turned out exceptionally well. And you can read all about that as well. And then I guess I can't believe it, but Wayne found yet one more resource guide, and this is a Marketing Hub campaign policy. And it's a little 13-pager on how to set this up. And, if you're not using Marketing Hub, but you're using Zoho Campaigns instead, this will apply across the board to that as well. So he was able to dig up yet another one for us, Tyler.
The list continues. One day we're going to run out. Might be next week. So,
well, he thought he was done. I think we just got one last week in that too.
Gotcha.
But, we're getting there slowly but surely. And that brings us to our application of the week. And I talked, I did a search. I knew we'd covered this before, and it was on episode 2. This is Zoho CRM for Gmail. And the only reason I brought it up, it seems like things always run like this in groups or whatever. But this last week, I had 3 people ask me if this was a possibility. And so they didn't know about the extension and it wasn't out there. But I would say on the top of the list, if you're a Gmail user and you use Zoho CRM, this is the number one thing you have to have.
And so this is just a super useful application because it allows you to access and work with your CRM data from within Gmail. So, if you got an email from someone and they weren't in your CRM yet, you can go ahead and add them as a lead or add them as a contact. And it pulls up a little form so you can drop in any information that you might know about them at that time. And then in the future, when you're emailing with that person and they're in the CRM, that little side tab allows you to schedule a task or maybe set up a call or a meeting directly through your CRM, but in Gmail. So it's just a super slick little one to have if you are a Gmail user.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. It's just so nice. Just as you're reading your email, I leave it open because I've got this big, 27-inch 5K iMac. So I just have my Gmail in full screen anyway, and it doesn't really take up that much real estate then over on the side.
Mm-hmm.
As you're going through, everything's right there. Everything related to that contact is pulled in, so you can look. It's nice. So if you hadn't heard of this, shame on us. We probably need to talk about it more. We used to have that list of our top 12 indispensable apps for Zoho somewhere, and it was a link back in the CRM, and I used to put it in my signature. We need to dig that out again and kind of revamp that for 2021.
Yeah. Another one to touch on, maybe team. as a spoiler for next week, is the Zoho Projects integration for Gmail. They've updated that recently, and it is very solid.
Really?
Yeah, it's very great. Honestly, you can do a lot. It's a similar thing. You can add a task to a project with an assignee and a due date, right? All those things. It brings in the info. So I think they know. I mean, they've got a lot of users using Gmail who aren't going to leave it. So they invest in these plugins to just make the experience better.
Nice. And that brings us to our tip of the week. So we had a fun 2 hours this week, Tyler. So we are launching a new series of videos over on the YouTube channel called our Beginner's Guides. So we we spent 2 hours and recorded Zoho Desk Beginner's Guides, and ended up, I think we got 4 that we completed, and that 4 done. So the one on tickets, 13 minutes. I had no idea. When you record them just all like that, they weren't cut up. But what we're basically doing is we're kind of slicing and dicing the basics of some of the applications and then breaking them into these videos. Unlike our webinars where it's kind of screenshots and we go through, we're actually doing this live. So we're kind of going through and showing you on the screen and taking you through all the steps and going through all the process. And so this very, very first one is on tickets. And that's all there really is to say about that. It's everything you'd want to know about managing a ticket inside Zoho Desk.
Mm-hmm. Everything from how to see them in different list views to what actually each of the little tabs is and how to interact with them. Now, these are kind of the goal is, if you don't know how to use an application, you could look at them, or just to see some of the values within a certain application. So we'll be expecting more of these as time goes on, as we continue to record them.
Yeah, so the 4 that are coming out this month, they're going to drop, I think, on every Thursday. We've got another one that we did on automation, and we did one on knowledge base, and then we did another one on actually how to get tickets into your CRM. We covered the 3 top ways there. So that's exciting stuff. If you're having trouble sleeping, go ahead and watch those videos. And we don't have any questions today, but we did get a comment about that LinkedIn Finder, which we were talking about from the chat room. Rich says it just does a search. It's not up to Link Match's kind of level of
Gotcha.
of integration. And if you haven't checked out Link Match, linkmatch.net, I'm in it. If you're in sales, indispensable. I mean, 3-4 times a day, more than that, at least I think I'm in there. It's just beautiful. It pulls all the information directly into the CRM, does a really nice job of it, and really helps keep your database really, really, really clean. All right. And before we go, we're talking about our YouTube channel. I want to thank everybody. We actually hit 516 subscribers, and YouTube sent me a little thing. It's got an animation talking about that. So there's just a lot of good stuff going on over here. We are continuing to build these out, and it's good to see the audience grow. It's just been exciting. I mean, I noticed in the last 2 CRM Zen shows, we had over 100 views. We have that crazy one. That's pretty Poovy, right? Which did like 500 views. I have no idea why that was. But if you haven't checked it out, go over to youtube.com patreon.com/Zanata. I think hopefully you'll like the content and hit that subscribe button. If you want to get a hold of Tyler or myself, just head over to crmzen.com or head over to zanata.com and you'll find the contact us form and drop us a line.
And on the websites is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platforms and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.